Welcome to the Model Car Hobby Podcast with your host, Luka C. Now here he is, Luka C. Well, hello, my fellow car milers. How are you doing today? Welcome to another episode of the Model Car Hobby Podcast. This is going to be a little bit of a different one. I have a very interesting guest on and good friend of mine, but we're not going to be so car-centric today with talking about the hobby, but I think you guys are going to want to listen to this one and you're going to find this very interesting. I have my friend Frank Donati right over here. And Frank is the president of IPMS Canada. As you can see, way up there in the corner, his logo. It's their 60th anniversary. Frank, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. And
it's a pleasure.
I know we've had some conversations that were really interesting about things that are going on with IPMS. I know that all of us model car guys, we're getting a little more involved with IPMS. I know for the first time I joined IPMS, my local chapter, a year ago, and just kind of looking at IPMS a little more serious, where years ago the car guys were kind of treated like the redheaded stepchild, and not so much anymore. And there's been some really great shows that are IPMS shows that are having a lot of cars show up, and they're getting treated with equal respect now. You know, it just seems like some of the, I don't know, I don't want to say attitude or anything's kind of starting to drift away. I know it's going in the right direction, but you know, IPMS, like any organization, and it's been around a long time, has its ups and its downs and stuff, but like to keep things positive about it going in the right direction. And I know a lot of things that you've been working on up there in Canada and you all work together, all the different countries that have IPMS. I think it's great to have you on the show and talk about it. So thanks a bunch, man.
Oh, happy to be here, man. It's great talking to you. I mean, even when we do our little side chat. So
yeah, it's a lot of fun. We get into a lot of cool stuff. And now, Frank, your majority of your personal model building, are you more into airplanes and I know you do a bit of everything, really.
So I think most of my builds I call armored fighting vehicles. So I'll do armor and, wheeled vehicles, trucks, stuff like that, military stuff, right? I'm a history buff, so that's where that interest comes from. But I've done ships. I did a couple of 700 ships. I've done some Gundam, some sci-fi, Star Wars stuff. I'm actually working on my first car ever right now.
Yeah, that's pretty much getting you to have everything now.
Well, that's the point. I don't know what I'm going to like. So, I'm going to try 700 ships, which are crazy. I really like doing those. I've done a couple of those. I picked up a couple of 350s. We'll see how that goes. But I like doing the ships. I like the sci-fi stuff a lot. I've done a few of those, the Gundam.
Yeah.
But I haven't done a car, and it's a whole, to me, car modeling is different than armor modeling. It's there's so much emphasis on the paint, on the body. It's a different discipline within the greater hobby. So I want to try it. And so that's, I did one airplane. I did airplanes as a kid because that's all I could get. I was in Germany, and at the Canuck store, RPX, they pretty much had Matchbox and, monogram stuff, and it was all aircraft. So I did airplanes. I've done one airplane in 40 years. I got a second one to do for a buddy. I'm not sure yet if that's still something I want to keep doing. I have a couple of float planes waiting to be done, but I won a bunch of car kits at raffles. I've held on to them, and then this year in our club, my local is IPMS London, Ontario, and one of my friends challenged me. So we have what's called a 1-year build. So in the club, lots of clubs out there, and this could go for any IPMS club. You got guys that show up to the club meetings. They never bring anything. They don't even build stuff sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. So we have a thing called the 1-year build. So in January, everyone kind of says, what am I going to build this year? And it's got to be an unstarted kit. You show it, post it usually on our Facebook page, or you bring it to the club meeting. And that's your 1-year build. And then at the meeting in December, which is our pizza meeting, because that's where we spend all the leftover money for the dues, We get the biggest turnout because it's free pizza.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone shows up with their 1 year build. And then we put everyone's name in a hat, and whoever's name gets drawn, that's the winner. Pretty democratic. So that just gets the emphasis on let's go build something, try to get something done for the year. We did a twist where my buddy Bill pulled a car kit out, slammed it into my chest. He said, "I'm sick and tired of hearing you talk about car kits. Build one. I challenge you to build
Uh,
this kit for this year." And so that started a thing where other club members, challenge someone. One of our club members is Stuart Clark, who is with the Scale Model podcast, for those who listen to
yes.
that. So Stuart, if you've listened to that, has this inability to distinguish between Yamoto and Yamamoto, the admiral and the ship. He screws them up constantly. So
Oh, yes.
we gave him a 350 scale Yamato and told him make it. And he's just about done. So these challenge builds are just a fun way to get guys to do stuff. So, I'm working on the kit. I bleached the chrome. I've got some Mr. Hobby paints that I'm going to use. So hopefully I'll get this 1970 Plymouth done by December to show it off to the boys in the club.
1970 Plymouth, huh?
I didn't pick
Yeah.
it, but it's still a cool looking car, right? So
Go for it, man. You can have a lot of fun. Nice thing about car models compared to like what put on to doing military and aircraft and stuff, probably mostly military, is you're building a model of something, and such a big part of the military thing, which I think is cool, is the historic value. So you kind of have to follow, I don't want to say a rule, but you're building a tank, specific tank, say it's from this battle, all that. You kind of lay that all out, which I find that really cool. And you want to replicate that. So you can't really just go free reign and do whatever you want. You're not going to put a candy apple red paint job on tank. I might, because I'm insane, but that's just not a part of that part of the hobby. Where cars, there's almost not a wrong way. You can express yourself artistically so much with car modeling. I think that's what attracts me more to that, where I love all models. I just am fascinated with miniatures.
Yep.
I go to an IPMS show and I love looking at everything, and it gets mind blowing. And really where I come from is more like, I didn't really build much as a kid, but when I did, it was mostly science fiction. But I'm such a gearhead. When I got into modeling seriously as an adult, which was about 18, 19, out of high school, I hit the cars real hard and haven't turned back. That's been the fun thing about cars. And that's kind of a nice opportunity and a different mindset. Like you said, there's more, about the paint job and the look and how it sits like that. And you're kind of like changing your way of doing it. So that's going to be how you set out to build a model car. So it's kind of like a nice exercise for you.
Well,
when you're doing military so much.
But I'm still doing the same thing I do, which is I research. So like one of the kits I got was never heard of it, was a Baldwin Camaro.
Oh yeah.
71.5 Baldwin Camaro.
Yeah.
I know Camaros, I never heard of this one. So then out comes the computer, out comes Google, right? So now it's reading about Baldwin and what they did, what that company did with cars. Now like I want to build it like one of theirs and keep it kind of true to form, right?
Yeah. So learn about Joel Rosen from Motion Performance, and he got together with Baldwin Chevrolet.
Yeah,
it's a cool story. And
yeah.
So
so that's still like all my car kits. I look them up, right, and see, and do that little bit of that. Just comes from being a history buff and liking to know these things. So
I bring that a lot, like where it does come into what you guys do with military and tanks and stuff. Something I really enjoy doing is sometimes I'll get into building a race car, and a specific race car, whatever it might be, NASCAR, drag racing, F1, whatever. And half the fun is the research on that particular car and the story of that car and the team and the driver. And you kind of pick a specific race that it ran, and you want to replicate that car. That's when, when we do in the car modeling, where we get a lot like your military guys.
Yeah.
And we do really follow the history of that particular vehicle. It's a lot of fun.
At Nationals, a guy showed up for display, and he had every single one of Richard Petty's cars that he had built.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I must have been a half an hour just looking at going through each one, right? And just it was really cool to see. Like that was pretty impressive. That's a lot of cars.
Yeah, that's a lot of cars. He raced for quite a while. Yeah, that's cool stuff. So it does get brought into our end of the hobby too. A lot of the history of it, if you want to go in that direction, do replicas of whatever, especially race cars. But
yeah,
it's definitely neat. And the thing is, like what you said, I don't know why I was thinking the majority of your stuff was. I know why I was thinking the majority of your stuff was aircraft, because of the whistling tit.
Oh yes, yes, yeah. Mike. Yeah, well, that's just you know what I mean. Come on, it was a cool looking plane, and what an appropriate name for our podcast to talk about the whistling tit, right? I mean,
the whistling. Well, the thing that happened is, so that was our episode over, which I didn't mention, everybody. Boy, oh boy, I should have told you this. Frank is a part of one of my favorite modeling podcasts, the Insanity Modeling Podcast. Sorry, Darren. I know Darren goes, what? Jason and I had the privilege of being in the latest episode. That was 20, right? Number 20?
It was episode 20.
Over there at the Insanity oh my goodness, the Modeling Insanity Podcast. Ripley's going to shoot me. What a great podcast. It's a lot of fun. These guys are awesome. And Jason and I had such a ball. We were such fans of the show. And it was so fun to be a part of it. But Frank was talking about a model kit coming out. And he just said, and the model of the whistling tit. And Jason was like, hey, what?
Yeah.
So what has happened, Frank, over in our little world of the scale model car podcast? We have a little private messaging thing we do together to talk about the show and just conversate between one another. And Jason took on the nickname as the whistling tit. So awesome. And the other guys, and BG was like, what is this whistling tit? So I told him, because he hadn't heard the podcast yet. And I kind of told him a story, and I sent him a picture of the whistling tit, and now he understands. So any of you, look it up. It's an actual aircraft, and when you see it, you will understand.
Yeah, it's the Argosy. Argosy is what it's called. Take a look and see a side profile, and it all becomes apparent.
It comes into focus. Yeah, Jason is now officially. So there, now everybody knows. Everybody, Jason's probably going to kill me. Jason is the whistling tit.
Oh, gosh.
Well, next time I see him, I'll be like, yo, WT, what's up?
Excellent. That's a lot of fun. But anyways, if you haven't, we talked about it in our last podcast, and I'll say it on this one. Everybody, you got to go check out. And as a matter of fact, real quick, there we go. I can put that up there.
Hey, right on.
Check out the Model Insanity podcast on Spotify and many other streaming platforms. It's a great show. They talk about the hobby of model building, and it really affects all of us, and everything they talk about, you definitely can relate to car modeling too. And maybe
we cover
maybe now you guys you're going to have more car stuff on there now.
Oh, yeah, some of the stuff we talk about is definitely broad based, but Justin's a big car guy. Justin likes building his cars.
Yeah, so Justin and I have done a few things together. And even Rob Adams, he I think he's going to start. He says he started on cars and smoking a cigarette. Cars.
He did a rat rod. What he really likes is
that was cool.
I don't know if I think it's Meng does these 1/9, 1/12 scale rice rockets.
Yeah.
And he's building those. And I want to say he maybe even has a BMW R75 or something like that. But he was doing the bikes with the 6,000 carbon fiber decals that you have to put on it.
Yeah.
By the way, for those listening, I am from Canada. We pronounce it decals.
They do that.
So it's in the Collins Harper Dictionary as the Canadian pronunciation. So
yes, it might hurt our ears down here, but
so yeah, Rob, we do that stuff. But yeah, it's and I'm liking the car. I kind of got hyper focused on what I I bought some stuff, and I have a modeler's attention deficit disorder where when you
Oh,
buy a kit,
geez.
everything you've been working goes aside and you start on the new ones. So yeah,
Yes.
it's a curse. We all bear it well. So
Yes. Oh boy, yeah.
like if you want to talk about car modeling, just to segue a little bit, right? Like
Yeah.
I like we have like I always reference back to my local club. So our local club's about 65 members. We're one of the most diverse chapters up here in the country because we
Yeah.
literally on any meeting have literally every genre show up, everything
That's awesome.
across the board, right? From 3D prints to resin kits to paper models to Gundam, sci-fi, army, spaceship, and a lot of aircraft. Because IPMS, it did start off predominantly as an aircraft club, but back in the 60s when it started in the UK, I mean, the biggest interest and the most models back then really, aviation, because aviation was still pretty new, right? We'd only been flying for less than 50
Oh
years.
yeah. That's true.
So, and think about what it was like in the 40s and 50s. That shit coming out every other week, another aircraft, right? So, just an amazing volume of cool and exciting stuff. And then car models were coming out, and we have the same issue here. I think that IPMS has down in the states, where like a lot of the car modeler guys in the last 20, 30 years, they had left. They'd started their own clubs, separate, and the reasons can be, we know, right? There's institutionalized apathy towards other parts of the hobby. You got people who think only one discipline is worth it. This is what the club's all about. All sorts of stuff. I mean, we're a society made up of individuals who all have our own private tastes and
Hmm.
choices and whatnot, and that kind of dictates how things move along. So, it was airplane centric, and as other genres started to evolve and come about, right? Military models really, the tanks and stuff really kicked off in the mid '60s. Was when that really started to pick up with the 132nd scale. The '60s when Tamiya started coming out with the armor kits and the 132nd stuff, and then we started to become more variated. I mean, we had more genres starting to show up, but you know, you get a club and it's all airplanes, and it's like the Little Rascals with their He-Man Woman Haters Club, right?
Yeah.
I just want to run it with like that, and as we've progressed over the years, I love the fact that my local is diverse. We have everything, and I was a little surprised sometimes, I guess, in my naivete to see the discontent between some of the different genres, and like didn't have a lot of car guys. Well, that's because the car guys made their own. Um, to be honest, if I was going to be a part of any society, I would have probably been amps. I would have been an AMPS member, but for
Yeah.
some odd reason, outside of Alberta, like out west, AMPS just there were chapters in Ontario, but it just doesn't seem to take. I can't explain why. I know lots of I know lots of armor modelers. I was in Ottawa for 36 years, so I was a member of IPMS Ottawa. In Ottawa, with the War Museum and stuff, there are some world class known armor modelers that are in that area and members of that club. Yet amps just never really. It just doesn't seem to go. There was a chapter here locally. It fizzled out. Toronto used to have a show. It's disappeared. So the other. I think if those people are looking for a club or a group to be with, they could migrate. IPMS is there. We welcome it. I am an AMPS USA member. I joined AMPS, so I have membership there, and with my role in IPMS Canada. For me, that's a big thing is the inclusivity of the hobby. I want the car
Mhm.
guys back. I think car kits are cool. We got one guy who does these um, World Rally Championship cars, and
Oh boy, yeah, I love those.
and they are amazing. Or I got a friend, Dave Gertan Blappy. He's well known in the model verse. He did a few kits in golf colors. He did a Falke in golf colors, and then he did a pickup
Hmm.
truck in golf colors, and then he did a GT in golf colors. And his painting, his gloss finish, his detail work with pinstriping and stuff is out of this world. And I want to see more of that. I think that stuff, I can't do that. Like I'm, maybe that's why I do armor, because I can be shitty at it and it still looks good. But some of these finishes, I remember in Ottawa, there was a guy, he would do cars, and then he would go to the Shoppers Drug Mart and pick up, he'd go with his daughter and buy nail polish that was on sale, like end
Yeah.
runs, because
Yep.
it's just lacquer. It's lacquer paint.
Mhm.
And then he'd go to Walmart and he'd buy these like die cast cars and he would modify them. Like he would chop the tops and make them convertibles and stuff, and then blast them with this nail polish stuff, and came with like the most amazing metallic colors, these weird purples
Oh
and
yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah. I've
And
done that. I've done
yeah,
the nail polish thing. That has been a oldie but goodie in the car thing.
yeah. So
Car
part of
world.
part of my what I did, like I became president through a bloodless coup in December. Our treasurer and membership guy has been doing this since '79.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so he's like,
Yeah.
he wants to throw in the towel, and we're like, damn, yeah, of course. The president before me, the national director, he I think on and off for 29 years has been national director, or now he's the emeritus. But so we've got these guys that have kept our club going, our society going for 40 years. I wanted to see if I could bring about some positive change for inclusivity.
Yeah.
We're smaller. We're under 700 members in Canada. I think there's only about I think we're at 12, 14 chapters. We just brought in one brand new chapter. Kawartha Lakes, welcome aboard, is now an IPMS chapter, the Kawartha Lake Scale Modelers. And then Prince George, who kind of drifted off, came back, rechartered. So we've had expansion in the last year. So we're pushing closer to 700, which would be great. But now my outreach is to those other folks out there. I want to start going to some of the car model shows and saying, hey, like, come join us for no other reason than to share,
Yeah.
to show what you're doing. I was at IPMS Nationals in Madison a couple weeks ago, helping to vend and attending, and like an undiagnosed ADHD OCD child at the vending area. And this guy is there, and then a friend of mine, Steve Munzel, he goes,
Yep.
he goes, he
Value
goes,
gear.
yeah, he goes, you gotta talk to the Emperor of Canada. He was calling me all sorts of names.
Yeah.
So I talked to this guy. He's from Toronto. He says, oh, I was in Chicago. I heard there was a model show. It's not far. I popped over with my son. I
Oh,
said, cool.
cool.
I said, what do you do? He says, well, I'm in Toronto. I go, are you in a club? He goes, no, no. I said, what do you build? So he starts showing me, and he does Gundam, and not just any Gundam. He does like the perfect grade 1/20th, the massive stuff,
Oh man, that stuff is cool.
and not just build. He builds, he paints, he gets the aftermarket photo etch stuff. So he starts showing me his builds, and I'm like, sweet tonada. I said, why are you got to be a member of a club. You need to share this with, you need to bring these builds and show them off, because this shit is amazing.
Yes.
Like, come to a show. If you're not competitive, put it on display. If you're competitive, go into a contest. I said, or even, but just join a club and bring this. I said, because this shit is unreal. Like, he was amazing. And for a
Yeah.
guy who just popped over from, we made a joke because he came with his son. His son is, I think he was around 9 to 12 range sort of thing. Little guy, was getting into modeling. And I was like, for a quick trip, he went through a few $100 at the vending area.
Oh,
And
easy to do.
oh yeah, buying space. He likes the space stuff, right? But I was just like, man, you got to share this. That was my whole point. Like, if nothing else, if I went to that show and got one guy to join up because he's a brilliant, like, his pictures were amazing for what he builds. You got to share this, and that's what I tell people. You got to, like, come. The more people we have, the more fun we have, because that's what it's all
Oh,
about.
exactly. Yeah, 100%.
No, but this shit about, like, well, you're airplane centric. Maybe it was, but you got to stop living in the past. It's 2024. We talked about this. You've heard it on our podcast, right? Gundam is what's paying for your cars and my tanks.
Oh, it absolutely is. I see it like at Andy's. His Gundam section has grown. He says it's starting to overtake airplane and armor sales is huge. And one thing I see whenever I like hang out there all day, I see young guys buying Gundams, and I'm talking about they come up with the big, $200 model box, and they are
Yeah.
so happy. They go, oh, and they're like, oh, I'm so glad you're here and you carry. I've been looking all over for this. None of the other hobby shops carry it, and Andy has it all. And he's literally started filling up. He has like this one section of the store that is kind of like open for just hanging out, and there's tables and stuff in there, and that's kind of where the overflow goes to.
Mhm.
Lots of times the overflow is Gundam. He's got a ton of Gundam back there now.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I
In which my grandson now is like, I got to start buying Gundam for him because that's where he hangs out when we go over to Andy's. He's so intrigued by the Gundam.
And how old is he?
He's 6.
He's 6, right? And what?
he's already got like 5 models under his belt. He's in it.
Because really, the most dangerous thing is the nipper, right? Because there's no glue. You don't even need to paint them if you don't want to. Like as a starter, the friction fit. I mean, the engineering is amazing, but this is the stuff that's driving the hobby. So, our shows, we like my London show, we made sure to include Gundam and even the 40K stuff, right? The tabletop gaming guy stuff.
Yep.
And the miniatures. And come on, right? I've got a couple guys, they do Gundam really well. I got one fellow in the Toronto area, a friend of mine, Tony Pham, little shout out for Tony. Whenever he shows up, his work is beautiful. He always gets awards because so we want more of that. There's an anime show called Anime north of Toronto. It's the biggest show of its kind, sort of, and it's the modeling, but it's also the manga, it's the cosplay, it's all of it. But all the Gundam modeler guys go there, and a few of our club members who do that, we're up there, and they're talking to these guys, going, "Why don't you guys join the club?" And they're like, "What club?" Like, come on, like you've never, and they mention IPMS. They say, "Look, there's a model club you can show." They have no clue, no idea. So he was giving out some information. A lot of them young guys about, hey, to have a hive mind, to have more people to talk to and hang out with and share the stuff with. So, and it's the same with,
all, we're all gluing styrene together. Well,
Yeah.
the Gundam guys are snapping it together, but that's nothing to scoff at. It's building. Oh, what was that I heard just recently in a podcast? It's about building small versions of big things. That's what we're all doing.
Yeah. That's all. I can't, my wife won't let me have a T-55 in the backyard, so I got to build it in small scale. I mean,
jeez,
unreasonable.
Totally unreasonable.
All the lawyers for this one. Like with the car guys, it's just I'd like to get them kind of back in the fold. Have your club, absolutely, and if you just want to hang out with like-minded individuals, that's your choice. But you know what? Maybe share what you're doing in the big world, because we'd like to see it. Just because I do tanks, or John does aircraft, and Billy does spaceships, doesn't mean we can't fully appreciate what you do, because it's art. In my opinion, it's art. That's why earlier today we had a discussion about judging, just with a guy in our Discord, talk about judging and what it's like. And as long as human beings are involved, it's always subjective because it's art.
Yeah, exactly.
So nothing is perfect, and there's always going to be complaints and problems. You just got to accept it and understand that it's not a perfect system. And because we're involved as human beings, bias and flaws will be there. I used to do fire investigation when I was back with the fire service.
Oh yeah.
And one of the biggest things when you're doing an origin and cause determination is you don't want to have any confirmational bias. You can't go in there thinking ahead of time someone set this fire, because it may not be what happened, and that can taint the evidence and stuff. That's years of guys doing the job and coming up with these biases. We all have biases. We all have prejudices. We all have, our foibles. The hobby's no different. People's perceptions, tastes, and interest in them are going to be based upon themselves and their biases and what they like and don't like. But at a certain point, move beyond that and go, dude, it's a hobby. It's just something we do for fun.
It is. It's definitely, it's recreation.
Yeah. First of all, who gets rich doing this?
I've been trying. It's not working out.
Yeah. Ain't too many guys showing up at the regional club show in his Lamborghini, right? That he got from the hobby. It
definitely didn't get it from the hobby.
No, you ain't going to be rich and you may be famous in a pretty small percentage of the world's population, and you may have that fame and glory if that's what you seek. Good, but at the end of the day, we do this as a pastime for our
Hmm.
sanity, for our joy, for an ability to express ourselves. So, you
Yeah.
know, let's get together and do it, collectively.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I think an organization like IPMS, they offer a lot when it comes to putting on shows. When it's an IPMS show or anybody is a part of IPMS and they put on a show, there's this collective ensuring the events. It's really good to have when you do your shows. And other thing, and you get all this through the magazines, through the IPMS magazines. It just gives you some extra added advertisement and pull. And I know that, like our local show that we have here every year, a couple of us in our model car club, we went ahead and we joined IPMS, and we said to everyone, we're not here representing the model car mafia. We are here as IPMS members, and we'll basically taking care of the car side.
Hmm.
And we advertised it and we got it going. And the last show that we did, they came up to us. They never had as many cars as they did at this last show, and people coming from out of town, just
Yeah.
model car guys from out of town
Yeah.
came in. And we had of course, the class or type of modeling that had the most amount of models on the table was the aircraft, but the car section was 9 models short of the aircraft. We had the second highest amount on the table.
That is so cool.
Definitely on our side with the model car section, we have been seeing a lot more about the nationals. The nationals are starting to get a lot more attention over the past 10 years with the model car side of the hobby. So I think the nationals being it's such a huge thing, and there's really nothing else that as big as that right now. It's nice. It would be nice to see more of the car guys taking the IPMS Nationals serious and feeling welcome, which they are. That's the biggest reason why we all kind of stepped away from IPMS. Like, I went to an IPMS show, the local one that I'm involved with now. I went to that show in 2000, and I just was rubbed the wrong way, and I didn't show back up until 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different group of people, and they are all there's car guys involved in that club, and they're very open to everything. And it's really nice. There's just not that bias that we talk about. It's starting to go away. There's needs more work to be done.
Yep.
But it's nice to have people up in the higher levels of the IPMS organizations, all the different countries, that are starting to think that way, because I think it's something that we all need for the hobby of scale model building.
Sure.
I think we all need to. I know that's a subject that's what is great on the Model Insanity podcast is I know that Rob and all you guys, you are very much into let's all be together. Let's be on each other's podcasts. Let's promote the hobby. We all use the same ingredients when we build our models.
Yep.
We're all using the same glues. We all love the same company. We all get stuff from Tamiya. We all get stuff from Revell. We all get stuff from, Testers, all the different companies that make the products that we all use the same stuff. We use the same glues. So it should be a brotherhood, sisterhood, I guess, all of us together. And that's definitely something that I have always set out to promote, even though my stuff is mainly model car related. Like my Facebook group is model cars, model automotive, really.
Yep.
But I still am very much into promoting everything in the hobby. It's like one thing that in the car side that I remember years ago, I was involved with a model car club, and we did a model show, and I wanted to have a class that was for soft skin armor, pretty much like mostly what you build.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to call it. And they were just so dead set against it. And I go, those are model cars. And that's why that type of, and I invited you and all you guys to be on Luka C Model Car Hobby Headquarters Facebook group there. A nice long thing that I got. It's because I want to see, like, we're all talking about that M wrap from Highfield. And I want to get one. We're going to be doing that build that Rob Adams is steamrolling right now. Rob did a beautiful job of the 48 scale one, and he was like, "Is it okay for me to post it on your group?" And it's like, absolutely. It's got wheels, it's got tires, it's got suspension, it's got a steering wheel. You get in it, you got doors. It's a model car as far as I'm concerned. Who cares that it's armor?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a more open mind needs to be from every side of it all. And that's what I'm starting to see more of. That's what I love about how your guys' attitude is over on your podcast. Even though, Rob is a tank guy, end of story, but he appreciates all models.
Yeah, no, and that's the way it should be. And you bring up something like the MRAP, like, well, look at when I joined your Facebook page, right? My first post was a 72nd scale German World War II Deuce and a half.
Yeah.
Einheit diesel, right?
Oh,
And
yeah. I
it's a
love
truck,
those.
and no negative comments. No, that shouldn't be here. Nobody PM'd me and called me an ass or anything like that. So,
Nope.
and that's the way it should be. There's no reason anyone who does a model should go to a show and not, be made to feel welcome and
No,
and
absolutely not.
and inclusive. And that's one of the things that myself and the executive up here in IPMS Canada we felt was important. So, our chapter member liaison came up with a guidebook for chapters on how do you onboard, how do you welcome a new modeler, right? How do
Mm-hmm.
you welcome a new member? Our club, the minutes of our club, every club meeting, it's a high, and then the first thing we do is any new members, if anyone or any new people visiting, because you're allowed to come to your first meeting's free. Come on in, take a taste. And if we have guys we had a couple of guys show up that are big in 40K, and you want to talk about a genre that's doing some amazing stuff with paints, right? Like those 40K guys with their making things look like they're electric and lava glowing and shit
Oh,
like that,
yeah. Yeah.
right?
That mind blowing.
Exactly. And so these two guys are extremely well known within that community here locally. And they were nervous about coming to the meeting. At the end of it, they were like, well, we were told IPMS, bunch of assholes, it's only airplanes, they don't like anyone else. And then meanwhile, on our table, we had 4 Warhammer 40K miniatures on display that someone had just completed. I said, no, that's not what we're about. And if you want to do a demo on how you make that shit look like it's like lava, dude,
Oh,
let me
yeah.
know.
Please.
We got a meeting for you, right? You come and you show us, because we all want to do it, because there's room for it for everyone,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And and
Absolutely.
and so the perception was that we were a bunch of I don't know, ODBs or something like that, that were totally non-inclusive and stuff. And so that's how we started our meeting. So we as a national organization said, what do we offer our clubs? Well, we offer them the ability to build a chapter. We give them guidelines, because people, how do I start a club? Well, that's what we're here to help with.
Yeah.
IPMS USA does a lot of different things for their members in the states, because like IPMS USA does the insurance for shows.
Yeah.
That's not something we do up here. Our main thing is we have a magazine 4 times a year, and we have a electronic version. So we do 8 publications in a year, 4 in your hand and then 4 in your email bin. And then we provide a decal sheet every year.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
we do a decal sheet. It's always usually Canadian subjects, because that's what we are, right? But this is stuff that nobody else makes. For example, this year is the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force, and so somebody got a sneak peek, because they live at the base where the CF-18s, the Hornet, got painted up for the demo for the year for the 100th anniversary. So got some shots. So now we can make decals so that people can make that 100th anniversary of the Air Force
Oh, how cool.
CF-18, right? So we do stuff like that. But what else can we offer? So one of the things that Alan, our chapter member, said, well, let's help a club figure out how to onboard someone, how to welcome them, how to get them engaged in the club, how to, for lack of a better term, spread the gospel to make it more inclusive, right? And
Yeah.
help with that stuff. That's what we as an executive, that's what the organization as a whole does. Because IPMS Canada doesn't have, we have executive meetings, but we don't have a place to drop in and hang out and stuff like that yet. But we're trying to provide that bit of guidance. So we have rules on how to judge,
Mm-hmm.
but they're guidelines. They're not hard and fast. This is if you want to do a show and you want to do first, second, third, here's the here's how to do it. Here's how we've seen over the last 40 years, 60 years, what works. Take with it what you want. Right? And now I'm promoting GSB because I've been to AMPS Nationals. I like GSB because I think my mindset is I would rather reward the modeler than have it as a competition. I would rather reward you, Luka, by saying you built an outstanding 78 Camaro that looks exactly what I would expect to see cruising down the street when I was in high school.
Mhm.
That's gold medal worthy, and maybe you got a thumbprint on the back deck, so it's a silver medal because you had a little bit of an issue, but overall, right? So it's rewarding the modeler for the skill and effort that they put in. So that's why I'm a fan of GSB. And it's still
Yeah.
not perfect because it's very time labor intensive and it's more costly because you have to have more awards. Best ofs are a great way of taking someone and saying that what you did really stands out amongst everyone. And I think giving someone some accolade for a fantastic job, a beautiful piece of work is a great idea. But I also think that when you come in, if built something that is really outstanding, you deserve to be applauded for that. And so, so now IPMS, traditionally 1, 2, 3, I want to provide guidelines to help people with GSB. Right. And then the guys out in Utah
Yeah.
had their show where they did the team of expert judges and they will look at the kits and stuff like that. And they had to bring in their own builds for street cred. If it works, perfect. And if there's an outline, I have no problem sharing it because now there's 3 ways you can run your show. How you run a show is up to you. Or do you want to go like the Brits? Right? Because IPMS UK, it's not a competition. It's literally just a show. And it's all about the SIGs. And I think SIGs are awesome. We're promoting SIGs because and for those who don't know, right, SIGs, special interest groups. So one SIG may be BF 109s, another SIG could be Chevelles, all the different permutations of Chevelles and stuff like that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
these SIGs are great because these guys are hyper knowledgeable on that subject matter. So if I want to build a Chevelle, I'm going to go contact the SIG group that I know out in Wyoming that's a Chevelle SIG group and say, hey, I really want to build my grandpa's Chevelle. It was this year. It was this. What do I need to do? What do I need to get? Where can I source to make it look as authentic as possible? Because I'm making grandpa's car sort of thing. Oh yeah, here, boom, 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 right?
Yeah.
Contact Luka C because he makes the hood and the grill, right? You want to get these rims and stuff like that. And here's the only 4 colors that model year came in. I think we need to provide as an executive that. And so,
That's pretty neat.
yeah. And we're quiet up here, I mean, people out there are going to talk about the fact that IPMS USA has been a bit of a hot mess with the Omaha and with the San Marcos controversies. And again, I go back to, well, you got nobody wants to volunteer. So if you are not willing to step up, you got to take who's up there. And you got people that have been in this executive perhaps for a little too long and need to let some fresh ideas, some fresh perspectives,
Yeah.
some new blood come in. That needs to happen. We really don't have that up here right now. The national has been fairly stable for, like I said, 40 years. We watch what's going on with our brothers and sisters down south. And I'll be honest, I have people who have joined IPMS Canada that left IPMS USA because we're a
Yes,
little
I've heard of
quieter.
that.
We're a little calmer. Our magazine is phenomenal. It really is. And it's just like the old IPMS magazine that used to come out 20, 30 years ago, still maintain a similar format. And we publish articles from IPMS, any IPMS, UK, USA, Austria, Australia. Someone wants to contribute, especially if they're an IPMS member, because when we highlight their club affiliation and whatnot and their bio, great way to get into writing reviews and writing articles, because there's a lot of people that want to do that sort of stuff. The for-profit magazines aren't the easiest to get into. So a nice way to hone your chops is to go to one of your clubs, your IPMS USA, AMPS, IPMS Canada. I get the IPMS Austria as an exchange.
Oh,
I
no,
get their magazine, dude. It
oh,
is
cool.
top shelf. It's slick looking, and it's full.
Really?
Yeah, and I read German, so it's easy for me to read it because I can
Mhm.
read German. But it's top notch. Reviews, new kits, right, stuff like that, and amazing stuff that's going on out there. Try to achieve that goal, and I was Madison was my first national experience. I've never been to a nationals. It was a great show, in my opinion. Um, it was run really well. I have some issues I didn't really like. For me, it was the picking up your model at 10 o'clock at night on Saturday is not for me.
Yeah.
I understand people like their banquet. My opinion was, why don't you have your banquet on Friday instead of Saturday? Lots of organizations don't have the banquet on the last day. They have it on the second to last day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. Like my professional associations usually have the banquet dinner on Wednesday and Thursdays when the show ends, right? When we have our AGM and stuff like that. Have it so that people can roll out of there on a Saturday by 5:30. Because let's be honest, travel's expensive. The more I spend on travel, the less I spend on my kids and
Yeah.
food and things. But be nice that if I'm 5, 6 hours away, maybe I want to go home Saturday night instead of having to stay for another night at $200 a night in a hotel. Other than my own personal issue with it, fantastic. The vending, amazing. But for me, IPMS Nationals is the social, which are my friends that I've made in the hobby internationally, hanging out with them. You know that we do an Airbnb, so there's a roving group of about 14, 15 of us that share an Airbnb, and this is
Hmm.
our annual reunion. So that's an amazing social experience. Then it's the vending because I am half Dutch, so I'm cheap. Um, I'm buying kits at great deals, great prices. Because for those who don't know, modeling in Canada is a little more expensive. Yeah,
Yep.
we get raked over for shipping, less bricks and mortar, heavy duty shipping costs. Rob Adams from the podcast is in Alberta. I'm in Ontario. He visited me for 2 weeks. Everything that we were paying, he was getting 10 to 15% less in Alberta than here.
No kidding.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
yeah, he was like, holy crap, man. Like he like everything from MLT, right?
Hmm.
Unicorn tiers. He's like, oh, I pay $13. I pay $19. He pays I pay $4.99 for paint. He pays, $4.20 for paint. Sound like much, but everything for him is just that little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
And our shipping costs. I
Oh, yeah. I know.
like
I have a few friends of mine, auto modelers that are up there in Canada, and I hear about it from them.
yeah.
And yeah, it can be a big deal.
I mean, if you're living close to the border, you can go and get one of those corporate center things, and then you drive over and you can order kits. And because like I hate Sprue Brother. I'm on a flam kick, as you may have noticed. I've done one flame tank. I'm doing another flame tank, and then they go and announce for $20 you can get the Tacom flame hetzer.
Hmm.
$20. I can't get it here for less than 70, $80. Right?
Jeez.
I'd love to be able to order it, but if I order it from Sprue Brothers, I'm going to pay 50, $60 in shipping. And that's
Hmm.
if, depending on who they ship with, it comes to the border and then we get a phone call saying, customs wants $30. Customs doesn't want $30. It's the shipping companies that just do a blanket charge on us, right? DHL's famous for
Hmm.
that. So I'm paying $100 for a kit. It's stupid.
Yeah.
So, shows, especially like for us Canadians, a lot of times is a great way to save a few bucks and get a few kits. And then, of course, Andy, speaking of your awesome t-shirt, shows up at our basically our nationals in Canada and announces he's got a Canadian online presence now
Yep. He
with
sure does.
flat shipping, $10 shipping rate. He's going to take over the business up here.
That's the plan.
Yeah,
I
it just,
I've known about this thing for a while, and he's been working on it and talking about it. And was really excited. And a big thing is it really does come from a a place where him and his partners, his wife, they've heard the cries of the Canadian modeler, and
yeah,
they had this opportunity to do this. It really is to help them out. It's like, well, we're going to lose. Their United States base here in Phoenix. They're going to lose sales to the Canadian one, but it's better for the hobby all in all. And might as well be him doing it, right? And that's
So
going to be a really big thing when that's going. That's going to help you guys up there so much.
two of my buddies, when I mentioned it at our club meeting and they heard about it, they ordered from Andy's.
Yeah.
And they were like my buddy's like, Frank, this is out of sight. He goes, I ordered it. It came in no time, $10. Nope. He goes, and they didn't ship one thing. He goes, so I called them. It wasn't in the package. He goes, I got an email the same day. Sorry, it's on its way. No extra charge. Obviously, it's coming, and it showed up. And you know, oops, you know, mea culpa. And that customer service and that pricing
Yeah.
is going to make the day. And so, you know, that serves us. So, and then as an example, IPMS Canada, we have our magazine. Any Canadian hobby store, and now that he's up here, you can advertise for free in our magazine, right? So, of course, you know, I met with Andy and I said, dude, you know, I'll talk to your wife, get me an ad, and we'll get it thrown in the magazine. That's going to help.
Oh yeah, yeah. You
And,
told me about that.
yeah, and get those products going, because to me, it helps someone who has done a lot for the hobby, and he's a businessman. He's there to make money for himself and his family, food on the table. I get it 100%. But you know, great ambassador, and he's helping us out. Like he's providing a service. Why wouldn't I want to, you know, because it's better for all of us now.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I
And
can tell everybody out there going into 21 years of knowing this guy, and we've become very close friends, and we've also over the years done business together. Everything you guys see on his channel and how he is, that's really Andy. He's really like that.
and that's what I do. That's what we do with our podcast, right? Because so everyone knows, right? The Modeling Insanity podcast does not have a Patreon. There is no special access. We have a Discord server. You want access? Show up in the server one evening. Odds are, at least two, and quite often all five of us are on there. And I'm on vacation right now, so you know, at 9 o'clock in the morning, as soon as I can hide from my wife, boom, we're on there. You know, we're the day drinkers, um,
Yeah.
drinking Spoogru all day, right? Building away. So, so we don't do it for the money. We do it for the hobby. We love the hobby. So let's get out there and do this thing. So there is no Patreon, no special access. There's no revenue generating. Any ads you hear, we offer ad space to companies. And in return, we tell them, give us product that we can
Yep.
do giveaways with. Give us something, like we'll do, if you want us to do a review on your product, send us something. One of the five of us will do a review, do an article if you want. But really, a lot of it is, if you give us stuff, we'll give it away to our listeners as part of a group build or a contest. And so we're in it for the hobby, right? And as IPMS Canada, right? Like we always make the joke, right? The club, IPMS Canada, does not pay for me to go to nationals. It's all my own money. There's no junkets with me
No.
and, you know, and the blow and the hookers and everything you've heard about. I've had to pay for all those myself.
Well, that's good that you pay for your own blow and hookers. That's admirable.
And in Madison, it was good, actually. Not the hookers, the blow.
Oh.
But
The blow was
yeah,
good,
you know,
though.
yeah, it was, the blow was good.
Okay, good.
But we go
That's important.
and I can't get enough of those voodoo chips, but that's another story. But you know, the whole point of it is it's to give back, right? What can we do, right? I think clubs are great, you know, and providing people with what they need to run that, to connect. Our country is vast, right? We're wider than you guys.
Yeah.
But 70% of us live near the border, but like we have tons of members that don't live within 100 miles of another modeler that they're aware of, or a club. So part of what we're trying to provide is, you know, we're looking at doing a virtual chapter so that all those people that aren't close enough to a local, they can come on to a Zoom and hang out and, you know, have a club meeting and show off what they've got in their basement up in, you know, Moose Jaw. If Moose Jaw doesn't have a chapter, or if you're up at Great Slave Lake, or if you're down in Yellowknife and there's nothing, it's that ability to connect and make the hobby better. That's the point.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, we're not.
That's caring. That's caring about your fellow builders.
And then you talk about car guys. So I live outside of London, Ontario. Windsor is right where Detroit is. And Windsor is an automotive town, Windsor, Detroit, right? But the automotive industry stretches all along Southwest Ontario, from Windsor all the way basically to the other side of Toronto and to the Oshawa area, but Windsor, London. I live in a small town called St. Thomas. We had a Sterling, which made trucks. GM was big here. St. Catharines had GM. Um, Oakville's got Ford. Woodstock, which is 20 minutes from here, has got one of the massive Toyota plants. And as a matter of fact, across the street from my house, we are getting a Volkswagen battery plant.
No kidding.
And rumor has it, the first Audi manufacturing facility outside of Europe.
Wow.
So it's all automotive from Windsor all the way to the other side of Toronto. It's hundreds of kilometers of all the automotive industries around here. So car modeling is a big deal. There's a group not far from here, and all they do is automotive. I joined their Facebook. I posted some of my stuff, and I basically got ignored because it's not cars, right? So there's a lot of automotive out here, and so my want is to engage them because I like. Why do you think I joined your Facebook? I like looking at the stuff. It's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's get out, let's share, right? And let's get the hobby even more, because the more people who do it, the more money the manufacturers make, the more shit they're going to make for us, right?
Exactly.
And so
across the board.
And you talked about it with me. You were like, Frank, I really want to start like really weathering up my cars.
Mm-hmm.
And you armor guys, that's one of the big things you guys do is weathering.
It's becoming a very big popular thing in the model car side now. You talk about, oh, it's all about the finish. Well, that's starting to become just as important. And when you do a weathering job, you want if you're going to do a weathering job, it better look right. And the best people to learn it from are the train guys and the armor guys. You guys have been doing it for years, and there's so many products that are made for that.
See,
and that's where I've always turned.
And there's a group that doesn't get mentioned enough in the hobby. It's those freaking train guys.
Yeah, exactly. Love the train guys.
First of all, money.
Yeah.
Right? Trains are money, but the stuff they use and the skill they have, because they do the scale model, they do the building, they do the scratch building, painting, airbrushing, diorama, right? All that stuff, terrain work.
The whole gambit.
And like, I just went to a hobby store not far from my place, and I found these pallets of basically blush that the train guys are using, and they come like it's basically a woman's blush, it looks like, right? But in these awesome colors that we want, right? The 6 degrees left of burnt umber that look perfect. So they have these soft palettes of these pigments in a blush format, sort of a creamy format that they're using. And I'd never seen this before or heard of it. And now, like,
wow, I'm interested.
Now I'm going next week. I'm going to pick one of these up and play with it. But the train guys, yeah, like I'm on a couple of train Facebook pages because, you know, I mean, I can't afford it. I like to eat, but at the same time, the things they do, the products they use, the skills they have.
Oh yeah,
I want more of them. And I live in my town, St. Thomas, Ontario, is called the Railway City. It's a big thing. They got a railway museum. We had tracks going through here. As a matter of fact, St. Thomas is famous because this is where Jumbo the elephant got killed when he got hit by a train.
Oh yeah.
So we have a giant statue for the elephant we killed. So, but we have a massive railway museum, and they have model railway show like every few months. They've got vending and stuff like that.
Yeah,
an amazing amount of talent and knowledge that I'd like to tap more so to make our hobby better.
Yeah, definitely. I got a little bit of a train background. Oh geez, I mean, really what got me falling in love with miniatures when I was a very, 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 very small child is my grandfather had a train room. He used to put me in the center of it when I was like, you know, a toddler. And I was just so, and he did the big Lionel train layout, mountains, little, you know, towns that it would roll through. So that's like probably where the real first spark of being interested in miniatures for me. Because, you know, as a child, you love toys. He kind of like taught me that this isn't a toy, but it's a grown-up's toy. It's kind of a thing. So I always did look at models as more of a grown-up's toy. Later on, and I ended up going to work back in like 89, 90, I worked at a hobby shop and I worked in the train department.
Hmm.
And I loved it. It was fascinating. I always liked trains. I never got into it though, because like you said, I already got the car thing. I try to take on something like trains. Yeah, there's no room for food. It's over with. But the train stuff, and I watch a lot of train YouTube videos, like the buildings that they do and how they weather and make the buildings look used and stuff. And I have a diorama I want to start here soon that using a lot of the stuff from those train guys.
Mm-hmm.
So and there was a time here in this town we had 3 pretty good sized train stores, and they're all gone now. I'm so upset about it. And I have, since the late 80s, a few of my model car buddies and we always went to the train stores because there was so much cool stuff in those stores, and even like detail supplies for trains.
Mm-hmm.
I use a lot in model cars. They have so much neat stuff. Things I just would pull stuff off of their detail rack just because this looks cool. I don't know what I can do with it, but it's cool. And just recently, I had something that I bought 30 years ago from a train department that worked out perfect for making something on this Porsche that I'm working on. A little detail, it looked perfect. So, like, I love Steve. You talk about Steve Munsell, his company Value Gear, and he is starting to do some things. And him and I just recently we got together last weekend and talked about more 24th, 25th scale car stuff he'd like to do. But even his third, whatever scale, it doesn't matter. I have a bunch of his stuff. I'm going to be putting some in this Porsche that I'm building, like bed rolls. And then he gave me some oil containers and stuff I'm going to put in the back of this thing because it's a grungy car and stuff like that. That'll be perfect. He gave me a little funnel. There's like oil cans and funnels and stuff. And I'm like, oh, these are cool, man. If you open up all gambits of modeling, you go to the other guys' stuff that they make. There's so many aftermarket companies in every section of it that they have stuff that can everything can cross over.
Yeah.
It all can cross over.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we've got to get the mindset of, we're all modelers. Let's cross over.
Yeah.
Well, I have great discussions with you guys, and we're all curious about each other's type of building. We learn from one another. So yeah, that's what's, I was really excited to see this because it's something that I've pushed for 30 years, that you used to be hitting a brick wall, and now people are starting to get a little more lax about it. I've made more modeling friends over the past 10 years, 20 years, like hanging out at Andy's, that are military builders and, armor builders, airplane builders, Gundam builders. There was a whole group of us that there was tank guys and airplane guys and a science fiction guy. And we all used to get together on Saturdays at Andy's and hang out and build. And I was the car guy. And we all became really, really good friends. We were like a little club in ourselves. It definitely needs to happen. And it's nice to see IPMS. They can get that, especially here in the States. It seems like you guys up in Canada are getting a little more of that way of thinking, a little more ahead than the United States IPMS is doing. And I really would like to see that happen, because I think IPMS is an organization that I would like to still see it continue on. It just needs I guess a few things need to be cleaned up. I know that there's a new organization that I'm very, very interested in that's really starting to pop up in the and all the podcasts. I've been listening to the one podcast over the Posse, the Plastic Posse podcast, did a special on that, Modelers Without Borders, and that's fantastic too. Bring it on. Start organizations that are going to be for the hobby.
Absolutely.
But I definitely, IPMS has been around so long. They've got something so concrete. If we can just get the thinking changed in some of it.
Things are generational, right? I always find that change happens in generations, and sometimes, you need the dinosaurs to go extinct. Unfortunately, sometimes they lay eggs and those eggs hatch, but eventually the extinction will happen, but it may take longer than some people are willing to. But to me, change doesn't happen unless you take some steps in it. That's what I did. I most of my life, I did things because it was a matter of, well, if I don't do it, right, then I got nothing to say. I vote in every election because I want to be able, first of all, my family fought and died for me to have the right, the ability to vote.
Yep.
So I take that seriously, because then, when my prime minister is a shitbag, I can confidently feel that way, and I didn't vote for the person, right?
Yeah.
Get discouraged. Or if I voted for someone, and they're elected and they're doing things that I don't like or appreciate, well, that's on me, because I did vote them in. And so, uh, but at least I feel I have something to say about it. So,
Yeah. Exactly.
we're all volunteer organizations. IPMS USA is the biggest. We talked about this, you and I, earlier, right? And
Yeah.
like, to the point where a lot of people think that IPMS USA is what started it all, and they don't realize that IPMS USA is a chapter, if you will, of IPMS UK. IPMS UK is the granddaddy.
Hmm.
And in 1964, I can't remember the exact month, but IPMS USA got their charter from the UK about 2 months roughly before we did in Canada. So both organizations in North America, not Mexico. I don't think Mexico was in 64. I think they're a little later. But Canada and US, we're both going through our 60th anniversary this year,
Yes.
which probably 90% don't even realize. But the fact is that IPMS USA is actually, gets its charter from IPMS UK. So they're part of that overarching organization. There's definitely some challenges. Where does the challenge come from? Well, obviously there's leadership issues. We can see that. They've taken some steps. I'm not a member, and to be honest, I have my own ship to steer, so I try to provide support for my sister ship, but it's not my job to steer it either. So if they want some help or they want someone to talk to, we're always here. They know that. Our executive, there's usually half our executive goes to every national. It's obvious that change is needed. It's more apparent now because social media, good or bad, and we've all talked about social media, is a
Mhm.
monster, a thing all of its own. And so that creates some of these challenges that go on. But hopefully people that are engaged and are willing to give of their time and energy, try to make it better, get that opportunity to work towards that. How soon will be up to those people that step up. I'm just happy that I have an organization where I feel we can do a bit more for the engagement and inclusivity. We run pretty good. There are angry emails that show up in our inbox, and I'm sure I piss people off regularly, and that's fine. At least I'm getting a reaction.
You're
But
doing something.
I'm doing something. So, somebody complained that I was national director, and a friend of mine said, "Well, did you go? Did you volunteer? Have you stepped up? Are you even a member of the national?" Nobody said a word, right? So he goes, "Well,
Hmm.
he stepped up." So that's what I did. I stepped up. I've got some other people I know that I'm trying to convince to come help. Like I said, our treasurer, right, 40 years. He's like, "Guys, I've done my shtick 100%.
Hmm.
So let's go." We're looking at, for an example, we're looking at getting a system for shows. So we like the way Madison did it. They've got a software system they developed for registering models. And let me tell you, it was not even 6 minutes for me to go and register my models. There was no
Oh,
lineup, there
nice.
was no waiting. I went first day, I went about an hour, hour and a half, because there was a problem with the internet. So I didn't go right away. There was a backlog of people. Guys were like, holy shit, there's people everywhere, because there was a Wi Fi issue. I think that's when the internet went down for the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was
So
the,
that was
yeah,
Hearn's
that
fault.
was,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
A real quick shout
yeah.
out to our buddy Jeff Hearn. Uh,
Yeah, Hefe.
yeah. Yeah.
So
I'm going to have him on the show here in a couple days. We're going to record. So
yeah, that was his fault, that internet down. But
yeah, yeah, we'll beat him up on.
there was but
He
there was
did a great job from what
but
I've
there was a
heard.
massive backlog, and like an hour later, you could swing a cat and not hit anyone, right? It was that seamless to get it done. So as a national organization, we're looking at trying to get access to a software that we can offer to chapters. You want to hold a show? Here's some software free you can use. The nice thing is the one at Madison, for example, it's a database. So if you, Matt, go into nationals and you register a kit, and then 3 months later you're at the Indianapolis show and it's using the same software, the kits you've already registered, because lots of guys will
Oh,
travel,
wow.
it's already
Great.
there. It gets its own identifier, and boom, you don't have to redo all that paperwork. You just go grab it, and it's universal. And then the judges are looking at the same documentation. Everyone's comfortable, right? There's some organization to it, and it's across the board familiarization. It becomes easier to use. So as a national, you got to start
Yeah.
offering that sort of stuff, right? To
See,
the
that
locals.
that right there, and where I think an organization, a blanket organization like IPMS is so great for our hobby, because I know that there is a just car centric show that is technically an IPMS show. That's the Southern Nationals that the Acme Club down in Atlanta puts on every year, which is one of the best model car shows. But they are IPMS. A lot of people don't realize that, and they benefit from the organized the US organized
Yeah.
insurance and all that for the events and all that.
Yeah.
And if there's something like that in a database that they could also use, and if it started getting there be more just car shows and maybe other types of shows that are you don't really see the other branches of modeling have their own shows except cars. And but if we started having more car shows that are IPMS blanketed,
Yeah.
they could benefit. Having things like that will make people want to be more involved with a organization like this.
Yeah.
And that's where this can just help the hobby of scale model building. We all come together. It's going to make the hobby and organized events so much better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you got AMPS in the States is like I said, it's not as present up here, but AMPS does a great
Yeah,
job of representing the armor guys. And I went to my
yeah,
first AMPS nationals this year,
yeah,
and I thoroughly enjoyed that show. I had a great time. Lo- Again, the social, like every show for me is the social, the vendors, and then it's the show to see the showcase of models. And
yeah,
then the last thing for me is the competition. I'm not very competitive, right? I
yeah,
build, and then when a build is done, I post it, I show it to my friends, and then based on that feedback on whether I take it. And our biggest show in Canada, or one of the, well, pretty much one of the biggest show is Heritage Con, which is in March. So that's my cycle. Anything I build, it kind of starts at Heritage Con, and then I might take it to other shows, but then the following March, anything I built is sort of gone into retirement, and I start fresh with the latest builds, right? So competition is the least important thing for me. It's the other three. It's the social, the vending, and then the showcase to come and look at some spectacular stuff. My friends went to Wonderfest. They talked about Bubble Young's foundation ship,
yeah,
and he ended up winning best in show at national. So I got to not only meet with Bobble and talk to him and get to know him and spend some time with him, but I got to see that kit that all my buddies who went to Wonderfest were just raving about.
yeah. Oh,
And
Wonderfest. That's a bucket list one for me.
me too. Yeah, but Wonderfest is like
Oh,
we have about
goodness.
8 or 10 guys here that go there every year, and yeah, I'm hopping on that bandwagon at some point. I want to go to that show.
Oh
But
yeah, definitely.
that's that you're right. And so like I said, in this, Amps was a great show. I like Amps. It's different because everyone's into the same genre. So the feel is there's a lot of camaraderie, there's a lot of fellowship because everyone's got the same narrower
Yeah.
focus.
So you can see how it is for the car guys where we
Yep.
have just model car shows.
Sure.
I love uh, um, shows that have everything in it too. But I know that a model car only show when it comes to just us model car guys is it's buzzing. It's definitely a buzzing camaraderie thing. It's like, and at this point in time, probably one of the best shows is that I've been to. I can't speak of a couple other ones. Is that Acme show down in Atlanta? They've been doing it for decades now. They really got it down. They are IPMS, and then there's what's called the NNLE that are technically supposed to be. And by the way, that Acme show is this too, where they're technically non-competitive shows, but there are like some specialty awards given out, but they're really non-competitive awards. And I'm with you. I've won a lot of trophies over the years, and it's great to win a trophy or get a challenge coin, whatever. I'm starting to get a little more okay with I've learned over the past year the gold, silver, bronze thing. I used to be very anti that, but
Mm-hmm.
now I'm getting it. Now that I'm understanding it, I'm starting to go, I don't know if I'd want to be a judge. It seems to be a tougher job for the judges in that one. I like the idea. I will go to one of those. I would go to one anyways, because like I said, I don't really care about getting awards or the competition part. It's nice getting accolades from my fellow builders, you know, getting an attaboy is all I really, you know, if I got modelers that I respect and my friends and they go, that's freaking neat, dude.
Yeah.
Nice job, Matt. That's more than a trophy to me. But it's about the camaraderie, the vendors, and just hanging out with friends, man, and seeing amazing builds.
Yeah, and
I love models, man.
yeah, me too. And you
I
know
love
what?
miniatures.
If someone wants a genre only show, have at it. You know, or you want to be all inclusive or semi, it doesn't who give a shit. Whatever it
Right.
is, have a blast, right? And I mean, you know,
Exactly.
the all inclusive ones are nice because we get to see like I mean, we haven't even touched on like the figure and miniature painting, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
like
which
and
I
I've
love that stuff too.
and talking about that, I got a buddy of mine. He printed me a resin Cad Bane,
Oh.
right? I'm a very long time Lee Van Cleef fan. So when Cad
Mhm.
Bane showed up in the Star Wars universe, like I
Yeah.
was hooked. So I've got a Cad Bane. That's my first big figure painting experiment that I'm looking forward to
Oh
getting to
wow.
when I'm ready, right?
That'd
I've
be
bought the
cool.
epoxy sculpt, I've got stuff I need, I've got the red scrunchy scouring stuff to clean up the resin, and I'm ready to go. Right? Munzel gave me a bust, a little head that I'm going to practice on first, so I can, you know, but like seeing that stuff, like those little scale miniatures, like some of that
That
shit
stuff is so neat.
is mind blowing how
Oh
awesome it
yeah.
looks. You know, and you know, like what Justin does with the skin tones and face paintings and stuff like that. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, so you know, like whatever the show is, because I know there's the miniature modelers, MMIC. I can't remember the name in the States, right? Miniature modeling miniatures
Uh I'm not
figure.
100%, but
MMFC,
I know of it.
MMFC. That's it.
MMF yes, I
So
have
you
heard of
know,
it.
and I think that's fantastic, and go and enjoy, you know, and get out of it. And you're right, it is judging. I did judging at amps. I wanted to experience it. It is very time consuming.
Yeah.
There's flaws in the system because judging is subjective, and
Oh yes.
until people can come up understand the fact of the subjectivity. I mean, you've got, you know, amps is good because they've got chief judges who will you know, make sure, like there's one guy we know, friend of mine, he does chief judge, and he is purely an advocate for the modeler. When it comes to judging a model, his advocacy is always about the
That's awesome.
modeler, right?
That's awesome.
When you're looking at the kit, don't you know, it's not just the flaws, it's what did they put together, right?
Yeah.
Like there's one show, I don't know what it's called, but they've got the sow's ear where someone takes a shitty kit and builds it and makes it look good, right? So there's the best shitty kit looks good, you know, section
Oh, that's
award.
I like that.
I think that's fantastic, right?
We
You know,
have kind of a there off my Facebook group. We have that year-long build that's kind of the shitty kit. There was people complaining about certain kits that keep getting repopped, but
yeah,
the company is still providing a wanted subject matter. So it's, you know, they're just not going to retool or make brand new tools of every car nowadays, you know, especially from the 60s and 70s. And there's this one particular one that was a line of GTOs. It started out as a MPC 67 GTO, and then they retooled it to a 70, and then a 71, and then a 72. And now they still have the 67 version and the 72 version that you can purchase now that's still being printed, but it's a horrific kit. So
yeah,
we as the admin on my Facebook group, we challenged everybody. No, it's not. It's just build it. And I made another separate group to post when you're done with it, so we can kind of keep track of them. But it's just build it. I challenge you guys to build it and make a beautiful model out of it. And it goes till the end of this year. And it started January 1st. And I can't believe how many people got involved with it. And they made really beautiful GTO kits out of this. Admittedly, it is a bitch of a kit. It's a pain in the ass to build. But if you put your time into it, it does make a very attractive 25th scale version of the 67, 70, 71, 72 GTOs. So we call it the old GOAT build.
Yeah.
The MPC old GOAT build. And, you take a negative like that and it turns it into such a big positive, and we're getting such a great reaction. People are just having so much fun with it. Yeah. So, it's definitely a cool thing to do that kind of stuff. I like the idea. It challenges the model builders.
Yeah.
It gives them a fun challenge.
There's a club out west called GOMB, GOMB, which stands for Grumpy Old Model Builders, or Modeling Bastards, if you will. And they don't do first, second, third GSB. What they do is you want to support an award.
Yeah.
You do that. So Rob Adams on the podcast with me, friend of mine, Rob Adams goes there and he's got an award he gives called The Man from the Hat Likes That. Because he's from Medicine Hat, Alberta. So it's The Man from the Hat Likes That. And he basically shows up and he picks the model he likes out of all of them present, and they get that award, which is the plaques, right? And so GOMS, all their awards are based on, if I want to sponsor, I want to pick like the best tank, you pick, I'm going to do the best tank, and you pick it. The person who sponsors it makes the selection. So I think that's a cool concept. It's a completely different show, which I think is really cool. And a different concept, right? But again, right, like you said, like your group build, like I'm looking forward to this friggin' MRAP one. Now it started.
Oh yeah, me too.
It started because me and Adam said, Rob was doing it, and then we just kind of said, oh well, we'll get it. No, don't get it, you assholes! Don't build my stuff. So we're like, yeah, we get it. And then I was at Nationals and I found it. I found the only 148 scale MRAP, and I hummed and hawed, and then I got it, and then I started giving it to our friends, and they took pictures saying, "Oh, look what I bought."
I remember this.
And then it started, and I actually, and I've said this story before, but I was actually going to come home and I was going to like get my kids to take a picture of me like in bed with it, on the couch with popcorn, watching TV, going for a drive with it, at the park with it, at the beach, right? Just to drive Riv that little extra crazy, and
yeah.
But then I picked it up, and then we asked, what about a group build? And other people are like, yeah. So I think right now we're standing at about 15 to 18 people.
Oh, yeah.
And we had guys ask, well, does it have to be military? We're like, fuck no, make it a cop one. Make it it doesn't have to be tan. It can be green. I told one guy, I said, why don't you not include the wheels, put 4 jet engines on it, make it a hover MRAP.
Do what you want. Yeah, get creative with them.
Yeah.
I made a goof saying, mine's going to be candy apple red.
Well, my buddy, Blappy, he wanted to enter. He goes, does it have to be military? I'm like, no, because he's the guy. He's done a Falke in golf colors, right? And then he was doing, I think he's doing another Falke in the JPS Lotus. So the black and gold from JPS.
Yeah.
The John Player special paint scheme. So I know that he would do an MRAP in some form of racing colors.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, that'd be pretty cool. I would want to see that. And
definitely.
And your candy apple red one. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I'm gonna. I don't know. Maybe I will. I like the idea of doing a cop one. That's probably what I'm gonna do. But I actually, when I first saw Rob's 48 scale build, 35th scale build. Yeah. When I first saw that, that's when I first really got interested in this model, and it looked so cool, and I love the weathering, and I like the military version of it. So I think I will just kind of bring it more into, kind of staying military, kind of going civilian, but not either one. That would be a policed one.
Talking about bridging relationships and bridging hobbies, you're going to show this to the car guys need to see this kit.
I want to bring the build into my Facebook group.
Because the engine, like the 35th scale one, the engine's incredible.
Yeah.
It is fucking detailed. It looks great. It is a cool car kit. I mean, it's a military vehicle, but it's a car kit.
It is 100%. It's like when I did the that Tacom 16 scale Jeep build with
Mm-hmm.
beautiful engine and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I put it on my channel and saying, guys, this is a model car. It's a Jeep. There's who cares that it's aimed towards the military builders? It's a model car. And then Andy showed me, I think it's a company out of Eastern Europe that put out a 16 scale, flathead Ford.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually more of a tank engine, a military engine, but it's still a flathead Ford. And I go, I want to get that kit and kit bash it with the 16 scale Tacon Jeep.
Oh yeah.
And put the V8 in there because after the war, a lot of surplus. I guarantee you, hot rodders did that. They took and flathead after World War II. The flathead Ford V8 was the hot rod engine. And it's like perfect. There's your 16 scale V8. Drop it in. Even though this was more, it still looks very much like the flathead Ford. Even though this one's supposed to be like for British tanks or something like that. But what the heck, man? That's car modeling.
Yeah, well,
right there, pit bashing.
But that MRAP, that's a car model to me, right?
It's a total car model, man. When I saw that engine bay and all that stuff,
and 148 scale, which is a sweet. It's such a sweet spot.
Yeah, it's a nice scale, and I've been always interested. Like one model kit that I have want for years, and I still haven't bought one, and I still plan on it. I love that Tamiya deuce and a half. What is that? That's 35th scale, I think.
Yeah. It's the I can't remember the designation, the M3A1 or something like that.
Yeah. I one time I saw somebody who built a beautiful one of those, and I saw the underneath, and I'm just infatuated with frames and chassis and stuff like that. And I just saw the detail underneath that thing, and that's why I want to build that. Is I just thought the underside looked so cool. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, I would build it. It would, in my world, I would take it to model car shows. If they would let me. That's the thing. So many, you take something like that to a model car show, they'd shove you into miscellaneous or whatever. Maybe if they let you enter it, but they go, "That's an armor model. This is a model car show." That's why years ago, and if I was ever to be involved with a model car show, I would say we need to have a military soft skin class. I don't know if there's ever been a model car show that does that, but I really think it needs to be done because I posted a post few years ago on my Facebook group, and I put up a thing that said that had pictures of a lot of those different military soft skin models. And I said, this is a model car, change my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody could, and nobody really did. Everybody's like, yeah, it's a model car.
Well, you know what? Baby steps, right? Start bring it, do that MRAP, bring it to shows, and eventually, it'll be in miscellaneous, but one day it's like Gundam. I'm sure Gundam spent a lot of time in miscellaneous before people started saying, holy shit.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of animosity like towards that genre from like the old aircraft guys, for example, that don't feel it should. And it's like, dude, it's all plastic. Why are you being this way? Right.
Why crap on somebody else's love for building miniatures?
I don't know.
That it's we're all doing the same thing. We're taking styrene and sticking it together, whether it's snap like the Gundam or we're gluing it with the same exact products. We're working with the same exact products.
Yeah. And well, so what I tell people, I said, have you ever tried to, have you ever painted a Gundam? Because once you build it, you can take it apart and you can paint it, and like the hyper detail you can get into because you've got the components that you can, paint, and you can get that little piece on the inside of the thigh, the color you want and stuff. And
that's the beauty of the company Bandai, which people don't realize that Bandai is the largest plastic model kit company in the world.
Yeah.
They're the largest. They're the biggest. They're the ones that are generating the biggest money now. And they're keeping what stores are still open. They're keeping so many hobby shops alive. So Bandai is biggest part is Gundam. I mean, it's nothing to really turn your back on. And it's like my grandson, he's been building a bunch of different genre Bandai kits, and he just is having a ball with it. And I find he took one of his dinosaurs that he built, he took it all apart just to build it again. That's what's cool about those for the kids.
Yeah,
Because
like
I haven't
Lego.
been able to go buy him a new one lately. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's very much like Legos.
and like my oldest boy, he doesn't model, but he likes he likes the dioramas and stuff. So he wants to get into just doing scenery.
Oh
He wants to do that,
yeah,
right? And my
that's
youngest
cool.
son, who's sitting over here completely surrounded by his 40K material, right? He likes the painting, like he likes playing the game, but he builds the figures, he paints the figures. He's
Yeah.
still a bit of a disappointment because he doesn't actually build kits like his dad does. But we did get him the behemoth, which is a big tank. So I'm hoping that's the gateway drug, right? It's like that's a little
Yeah,
bit of
yeah.
little bit of reefer, get him hooked, and then we'll get him into the meth.
Exactly.
You
That's
know,
how we roll with it, man. Gateway drugs all the way. Well, Frank, I want to thank you so much. This was such a cool conversation. I think it's a lot of food for thought for the builders out there who listened, and this was a ton of fun. I was looking forward to this one,
yeah, me
and
too.
we always have a good time just chit chatting. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think you're doing great things for the hobby, and let's get the word spread and get everybody kind of on board and make this hobby of model building, scale model building, a huge thing that isn't coming close to dying, no matter what anybody says. Not even. It's
Oh, wow.
bigger than it ever was.
Oh yeah, we're
And
in a
most
golden
of it
age.
is
Yeah,
yeah. And the young kids are going to come into it eventually too. You know,
absolutely.
absolutely. So, well, we're at the part of the show, Frank, that I put every guest right on the spot, and I'm probably going to bring you to the front of the stage here, and you're going to have to do what is my little send off, call out, whatever you call it, at the end. And you know what it is. You want to give it a try.
Keep gluing those fingers together and keep cutting the styrene.
Right on. You done it. You did well.
The
Wow,
entire
that's what
time. I haven't listened to anything you said. In the back of my head, I was just don't fucking.
that's all you've been thinking about is, I got to get this. Hey, man. Take it from the El Presidente from the Canadian IPMS. Nails it.
Oh, right on.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everybody. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'm sure Frank, we'll be doing many other little things like this again. I love having conversation with you. So thanks for coming on, everybody. You know what I say at the end of this myself is, here's the producers.